Okay, let's kick it off. It's time for a stream, right? Welcome. Happy Thursday. Welcome to a new stream, new Thursday, new stream. So today, the goal is to have a look at Systems Manager, so AWS SSM or Systems Manager. It used to be called Simple Systems Manager, I believe, but that's what SSM stands, I guess. But it's referred to as Systems Manager only. So AWS Systems Manager. I hope all of you have been okay. I hope you had a really nice week and happy almost Friday, right? So almost Friday drinks, right? So are we gonna try to go over a few things today as well? So just to mention, last Tuesday we've been covering CloudWatch. So we're going to continue in this operations or management tools week, and I'm going to be covering Systems Manager today. Again, the basic Systems Manager is a pretty large service. It has a lot of different features, so I'm going to be covering some basics of some of them, while a deeper dive into specific features and specific feature sets is going to come down the line. Oh, hello, Graham. Welcome. Good afternoon. Nice to see you here again. So, where should we start, right? So we should have a look at something not here. I don't think we should have a look at LinkedIn. Just close that down. We should have a look at Systems Manager, right? So, Systems Manager is this big old utility or a set of utilities that can provide you with a lot of different features. And the thing is, it's kind of like this jack of all trades. So it has a lot of different things, kind of focused into one specific region, and that is operations, right? Or operational insight, taking actions, everything you see here on screen. So it's a really nifty tool for people in operations, people doing actually, the operational part of managing the cloud. So, but before we actually get into Systems Manager, I want to just talk about operations a bit, right? So because we want to, I want to discuss just why are operations important, right? So and what are operations per se? When I say operations, what does that mean? So if I step back from the cloud and go somewhere in the past, operations would be a typical sysadmin duties. So it's not necessarily the provisioning aspect of things. It can be, but it's things such as maintenance, patching. You just having an access to a running system is an operation. So you have operational privileges against a thing, right? So you react to certain alarms. You remember alarms, right? So you react to certain things on a workload. That is an operation. Again. It can be anything from patching, maintenance, user configuration management in general, right? So the way you install applications, packages, software, whatnot, is part of operations. But one part of operations is all having that observability or having that operational insight. So understanding what you have and the thing that you have, how does it look? How does it act? How does it perform? So it's not monitoring per se, but it's also like, think of it as an inventory. Understanding what you own and what kind of resources you have is very important, especially when we talk about something in cloud scale. Having so many resources out there can be a problem in the management aspect of things. So, and who does the operations, especially who does the operations now in 2020 in the cloud world? Well, DevOps, it's kind of, this word is overused, but it's kind of a combination of developers and operations. But when we talk about DevOps, there's no such thing, or there shouldn't be such a thing called a DevOps engineer. DevOps is just a role, or not even a role. I'm wrong to say it's a role. It's again, a set of tools, practices, and cultural shifts. So when we talk about DevOps, when you run your system in DevOps, this means that you are applying some of those practices. So you have a sense of ownership. So you're a developer, or you're a system engineer, or you are whatnot, right? So you are kind of operating the system while you're working on it. So you're building something, you're operating on it as you go. So that's the person who's operating things in the modern world. But and how can we do these operations on AWS or in the cloud? Now, so typical would be, hey, I have let's I mean, we're gonna look at here a bit more in a traditional way, because Systems Manager works great with like EC2 instances and those kind of things. I'm not talking about serverless here per se, but it can also be applied to serverless as well. So let's say, you have a bunch of instances and you want to do something on it. What you would do, you'd probably just take this and connect to an instance and, SSH into it, do some tasks, or RDP into an instance, and, prefer your like patching and maybe a configuration here or there. That's fine. That works on a very limited scale. When we talk about things in the cloud, this is where things get a bit problematic if you want to do these things manually. I've been telling this story, but like one of my previous employers, my job was how do they call it? A server provisioning administrator. So I would basically provision servers, and not in a physical way. I would have somebody rack and stack those servers, and I would have to literally load the operating system on them manually. So it was a massive company, and it was not automated. So there was no cloud back then, but like it was not automated. So I would receive, let's say, 500 servers, 500 physical servers somewhere in the United States. And my job was like, hey, Darko, make sure to install Red Hat Linux on all of them. So my job was to, go there and load a CD over the, yes, actually, I had to load the ISO over the virtual remote administration interface. Install Red Hat, or basically use a kickstart the ISO to install it through the network, and then configure it all manually. If you get 10 servers, maybe 5, that's fine. But if you get a 500, it took like a month for me to do it all. And it all has to, no SSH, all through the remote administration interface, no copy pasting, horrible. Yeah, ouch, I know. So it was not fun at all. But now there's much better tools that exist right now to help you with this. So one of them is Systems Manager. So I'm going to mention a few tools, and I'm going to not go through all of these things, because if you see here on the left-hand side, there's a lot of things. And when we talk about Systems Manager, we kind of separate in what it does into a few parts, like operations management, where you have your ops center, your dashboards, your personal health dashboards, your trusted advisors. Application management, so this is where you kind of do some parameter stores, store things in parameters, secrets, configuration files as well. Action and change, this is where you do some automation, such as maybe recycling instances, creating AMIs, whatnot, right? Instances and nodes, this is kind of the interaction part between instances and nodes. This is where your patch management, session manager, application distribution comes into. And the shared resources is, it's just a location where you have your documents, or playbooks as some people call them. So we're going to be going through a few of these things today. I've planned ahead some of the things I want to show you, but again, we can also always deviate through some things if the time allows. So one of the first things I really want to show, and this kind of brings me back to my story about provisioning, is parameter store. And why parameter store in provisioning? So let me just switch back to a terminal, because I want to show you this thing in the terminal, right? Okay, cool. Reset, please. Okay, so how do you provision stuff on AWS? I mean, what's the proper way? I've been preaching this for a long time, but what would be the proper way to provision things on AWS? I'll wait. I'm just kidding. It's infrastructure as code, right? So using infrastructure as code frameworks such as CloudFormation, Terraform, Pulumi, CDK, Ansible to an extent, right? Any kind of a framework around that you kind of use to provision. You can absolutely click a button and have it all being provisioned, but to be truly cloud optimized, you would use some sort of a infrastructure as code tool. And if you're interested in infrastructure as code, make sure to register to my session on the upcoming EMEA Virtual Summit. I'm going to be doing a deep dive into infrastructure as code, so that should be fun. And you can see here that I have a table for recording that session. Fun. Okay, so one of the things we can use in CloudFormation, let's say we want to provision an EC2 instance, right? Let's create a template to provision an EC2 instance, right? So let's just do a basic instance. So resource. I should have had this copy pasted somewhere. I'm gonna call an instance, right? Or my instance. Let's provision a GPU instance. Spend that. Okay, yeah, Richard. I think that would be fun. Or what's the most expensive ones? The one the X32X large or something like that. Yeah, the one with a couple of terabytes of RAM. That should be the one. So let's create an instance. Give it a type. What shall we do here? So type. So welcome to typing with Darko. AWS EC2 provisioning EC2 outpost. Is EC2 can we provision outposts through CloudFormation? I don't think so. Maybe you can request it. You can do a custom resource to request it, right? But yeah, instance type. I can do T2 micro. I can set, I need a key, right? Key name. I can do Darko EU West 1. That's my key. How do you know what properties it needs? I know the 3 basic properties it needs to launch an EC2 instance. But yeah, I know that with these 3 at least, I can do it, right? Now I need an image ID or so I need AMI something. Now this is something I don't know by heart. So what I can do is I can just go back to my console and I can just find myself an AMI ID. I think I have an AMI ID here already. Do I have it here? Gray Mass, how long have I been working with AWS? Your knowledge is, I wouldn't call it amazing. Thank you very much, but it's, I've been working with AWS since I've been in AWS. So 4 years now, a bit more. So, not too long. It's just a matter. I show off services I know the best, right? If you would ask me, can you talk about analytics or machine learning, I would struggle there. I would maybe not show you basics, but anything else would be a push for me. So yeah, so this is a nice little template that creates an EC2 instance, but this is a bad way to do it, right? I have hard-coded a lot of things into the template. So let's use something called properties, right? Or not properties, parameters. So let's use parameters. So instead of defining hard-coded things such as instance type, key names, or image IDs, I can define them as parameters, so I can use those parameters during the CloudFormation launch. So it should help a lot. So let's try to do, for example, what's the first thing? It's instance type. What can it's a string, right? String, and the default value would be T2 micro, right? So let me actually just copy paste these things like that, and I'll do, what should it be, this key name, Darko EU West 1, like that, and this should be AMI or AMI is fine. Type string, and the default is this one. Paste like that. Actually, for the key name, we can actually use something else. It's AWS : EC2 : key pair, right? Like that. But this is also great. But how does this all fit into the Systems Manager spiel here, right? There's no Systems Manager here. Well, first thing, one of the things we can do is in these parameters, there's a service that can help us with parameters. What service could that be? Parameter store, see? Shock, right? And parameter store is this service where you can, well, guess what? Store parameters. So you can put in parameters such as any kind of a string, anything of, anything you would like to use, you can store it in parameter store. And what's great thing about CloudFormation, you can directly reference it from a template. So long gone are the times you want to, hard code things in a template. Even when it comes to parameters, you can also put those parameters or hard code them into parameter store. So how can we do this? So it's super simple. So instead of just using a type called string here, I can use a type called AWS SSM parameter and then value. So and I can also define a value type, which is string, right? Like that. So, and instead of the default setting a default name, I'm actually gonna set the name of the parameter I have already stored. So default, and let's create a parameter in parameter store. So I click create parameters. Richard, thank you very much for the subscription. Wow, I don't do this for subscriptions, but thank you very much. I owe you a beer. So let's give it a name, call it stream. What is the first thing I want to do is instance type, right? Instance type. Description, we can do whatever. And just value would be T3 micro, right? Let's do T3 micro, create parameter. Let's create more parameters. So let's create a stream. What is the next one? Only people with a lot of subscriptions say, I don't do this for subscriptions. I have, I think, 3 subscriptions, and you're the 4th one. So that's a lot to me. So yes, absolutely. Stream, what's the next one? Key name. And the key is Darko EU West 1. Is that okay? Yeah. Cash money. I'm not sure how profitable Twitch is for subscriptions, but I'll take anything, stream, maybe I should open up a Patreon, right? Stream AMI, right? I need an AMI ID. And again, the value here would be just this, right? Awesome. So you can see here, let me just try to filter this. The search here is horrible. So let's go in a different direction. So stream AMID, stream instance type, and stream key name are the new parameters I've created. So the way to reference them here is basically stream. Is that the way I'd call it? Yes. Stream instance type. So let me actually do it to yang, and then do this, and then do this, and then like that. Like that. So let me change this. Stream key name, right? That's fine. And the last one is stream AMI ID. Now, one thing I also want to change here, because the value for the key name is not a string, it's actually something else. It's AWS : EC2 : key pair, yeah, and key name. So just we make sure that we choose the correct value or the correct type for the parameter. Now, instead of just doing all these things, I can just reference my instance type like this. That key name and AMI. But this is wrong. I need to put something else. I need to do ref, because YAML, ref, and ref. So once I launch this CloudFormation template, it should launch an EC2 instance with the values, not pass through the web UI or the console. It's taking the values from the parameter store. So let's actually open up this thing here, find myself some CloudFormation, and let's create a stack. I have my template ready. Click connect, or I need to upload my file somewhere else. Streams, there it is, instance YAML. Hope I did it okay. It looks fine. Let's give it a name. Theme EC2. Would instance type not work since it's pulling it from parameter store? So the thing here is, if I'm defining it within the parameters, so basically I'm just defining the defaults within parameters. The format you said, Rockslim, would work if I'm doing it directly in the template. So if I would be basically doing it like instead of using ref here, using parentheses and basically defining the actual SSM parameter name, and there's a format to that name, and I just cannot remember it right now. How would you? There's an exact format. You need SSM.colon and then the name ID. I think that's how you reference it directly within the template instead of using ref. So, but here what I've did is, instead of referencing directly within the instance itself or the resource itself, I've referenced them within parameters, so that if you want to change your mind, you can actually change those things here as well. So let's say you have for example, a development AMI or development instance size you want to use, you will specify dev or prod or different parameter names as well. But you don't have to think what goes into that parameter, you just know the parameter name. So doing this, that's all fine. Click next, and hopefully this works. Unless I made the problem, or made a boo-boo. You refresh. So far, so good. Yeah. Yeah, so it will just launch a simple EC2 instance. And if we look at the parameters here, let me just move my face. You can see that the actual parameters from the parameter store were taken. So pretty cool, right? I basically, it took these values from here. Awesome. So going to parameter stores again, it took these parameters and it's now launching an EC2 instance with them. So that's fine. But here's another thing that you can do here as well. So, and this is also a great value when it comes to a parameter store. Let's say I've changed my mind and I want to change my instance type. Instead of T3 micro, I'll do T3 large, like so. Save this. Now, it will nothing automatically will happen. So what I have to do is I have to go here and then run, let's just use saws, AWS CloudFormation, update stack. See, there's an example here that I've already used. So, but I don't know the stack name. Let me just delete all this. What is the stack name? The stack name is Stream EC2. Template body file, and the file name is instance YAML, right? Instance, yeah, YAML. Grandmaster, what is saws? Saws is basically a shell of AWS CLI, so it just gives you a nicer interface when using AWS CLI, instead of me manually remembering these things or relying on like Z shells tab completion. This is kind of gives you a really nicer interface for all of this. So now what I'm doing here, I'm passing a CLI command to update the stack. I have not changed my template at all. So I've just changed a value on the parameter store, and I'm just passing the existing template to an existing CloudFormation stack, and hopefully, yeah. So now if you go to if we go here, we will see that there's an update in progress. And there's a new parameter here, T3 large. So in this case, it will replace my EC2 instance with a different instance size. That's it. So it's a really neat way to kind of maintain certain configuration aspects of your CloudFormation template within a centralized location. So let's say you have a pipeline that would deploy or attempt an update to a CloudFormation stack every hour or every day. It can pick up those changes once per day from the parameter store and just update your stacks with the latest information. So that's a really neat way to do it. So yeah. Yeah, that's parameter store. Again, parameter store is a really neat way to kind of store things. There's also different ways you can store parameters as secret strings, right? You can kind of encrypt these things with a specific key, right? So if you want to do some secrets, this is a great way to do it. There's also Secrets Manager, which is also a similar way. Secrets Manager, though, has an additional feature which allows rotation of secrets, so they kind of differ in that sense, but they're also able to use here. And because parameter store is just an API call away, you can use a parameter store within any of your applications to just invoke parameter store to give you a parameter back. So pretty cool as well in that sense. So I find it very useful. So just, if you want to store some things, yeah, even lambdas, anything that can invoke an API call can invoke parameter store. Now, I believe lambdas can also do something more. So I'm not sure if give me a second. Parameter. I'm not sure if lambdas have direct interactions with lambda in a sense. You still have to do it like through a CloudFormation template or a SAM template or something like that. So there's no direct interaction within like a Lambda console. But if you can make an API call by using our SDK to parameter store and you have the permission to get that parameter, your Lambdas can do that as well. So super easy, right? There might be a better way to do it. Instead of invoking it directly from a Lambda, store it in a Lambda environment variable. So just you limit the permissions for your Lambda function as well. So yeah, this is how you would do it as well. So there's a really nice blog post here available. Maybe I can share this somewhere. Oh, you'll find it. So yeah, so that's parameter store. Parameter store, again, a very interesting thing. Neat feature that can help a lot for, well, at least CloudFormation. I find it very useful for those kind of things. Another thing I want to show here is run command. So run command is a kind of this thing that is a glue to a lot of things in parameter store, or sorry, Systems Manager. It literally gives you the ability to execute a command on a managed instance, right? So on a managed EC2 instance, you have the ability to remotely execute a command, or not a command, but a document, right? The command in itself is not as valuable, but a document. Let's call it a playbook. It can do some things on an EC2 instance. Also, I just want to make sure to mention managed instances. These are instances that basically communicate with Systems Manager. For them to communicate with Systems Manager, you need to have SSM agent installed on them. By default, all AMIs provided by AWS, so Amazon Linux and Windows, and I believe the others as well. I'm not sure, but Amazon Linux and Windows for sure have the SSM agent pre-installed by default. So, and you need to have that installed. If it's not installed, you can do it yourself. And and you need to have permissions on that instance to communicate with Systems Manager. So that can be in the form of a instance profile, or even like you can run Systems Manager on premises. So if you have an on-prem instance, you can do that as well. Make sure just have permissions set up locally on that EC2 instance to basically work with this. Yeah, so exactly. Windows Server works by default. So if I launch a Windows Server out of the box with permissions, it will work, right? So as long as it can communicate with Systems Manager. Maybe some other versions of Windows, the default, the base image one works. So well, again, Roxland, depend on which Amazon Linux. Is it Amazon Linux 2 or 1? Because this instance I've launched here, I have not logged into it at all, so it just works. So it just showed up here. It has permissions to do so. So it could be due to Amazon Linux 1 or something, maybe some old AMI that doesn't exist. But the latest one, the one just get from the wizard, should work. Yeah. Maybe EC hates you, right? You never know. So back to run command, and it's kind of this thing, like you can run this document, and if I click run command, basically there's a whole lot of documents, or basically think of them as playbooks that will execute something. So the simplest one here would be to run shell script, right? So this is a Linux server, and I can just run any old shell script here, right? I can just do bin bash, and I can just echo Darko to tmp Darko, right? Or maybe I can just, or be better, touch cd tmp touch Darko, right? Darko, there you go. That's a whole joke. So yeah, I can execute a bash script. So in this case, it's a shell script, Graham. So it's super simple. But there's also a way to like run a PowerShell script when it comes to Windows. For Python. I'm not sure if there's a built-in document to run Python, but here's the thing: these documents are available to you, and you can modify them. You can create your own. It's really up to you, right? So, if I just like wrote a super simple script here, or super simple or simple service script here, I can choose an instance I want to run this on. So I just manually chose a single instance. I can also specify instances by tags or a resource group. I will not pass anything here. I don't want to write anything to an S3 bucket. And also it gives you like this nice little command line thing that you can just copy and paste to execute this from the CLI. But I'm just going to click the run button here, and my run command is in progress. And mind you, a lot of the different things on Systems Manager when it comes to like state management, automation, are basically run commands. So run command is this it's kind of like a lambda of operations. You know, if something doesn't work on AWS, or if you have a problem, just run command something on it and it might work. So it's this big old glue that does a lot of things. So let's see. It has succeeded. So is there something we can have a look at here? So if I look at my instance ID here, I can see the output, but there's no output here. So technically now, if I would log into my EC2 instance, I should be able to see directory within the TMP directory called Darko, or a file called Darko. But yeah, just to kind of reiterate things, when it comes to documents, there's a whole bunch of things. You can kind of apply chef recipe, an Ansible cookbook, desired state configuration from PowerShell. You can run Ansible, configure Docker, install specific Windows updates, run a Docker action, salt state if salt stack is your thing. Whole lot of things. Update, CloudWatch agents, install it and configure it, VSS snapshots, syspreps, all the things. These documents exist here for you to use, but there's also, if you look at documents here, you will see other documents that exist. Like, let me have a look at shell. So one thing I don't like about Systems Manager is this search function. I don't know. I understand that this gives you a really nice way to do things, but if I click a search box, I just want to type fuzzy things and have it come up. So if I type shell, it doesn't work, right? So Systems Manager, UX team, are you listening? I know who's in the UX team. I need to talk to him again. I mentioned this before. So we can find the shell thing. Is there a shell thing document? Stop RDS, start SH, start EC2 instance. There's a whole lot of documents here, right? Like run PowerShell script. Here you go. So the document is basically this big old JSON blob. I believe it can also be YAML, but it's just you pass it a run command and it will just execute it, right? So super simple, right? So yeah, this one is not very complex when it comes to the documents itself. But you can do also things. Documents are not just EC2 instance based. You can do things such like exit standby or remove instances from autoscaling standby and those kind of things. So pretty cool, right? So I think these are very extensible, and you can do a lot of different things with it. For example, this one is running. What is this doing? It's Ansible playbooks, right? So it will install Ansible. It will do all of these things for you and execute this playbook that you give it. I believe it clones a repo locally or something like that from GitHub as well. So that's cool. And this also is in line with State Manager. State Manager is this kind of configuration management part of this, is where you can create an association, or I can say that I can specify a document that runs on a group of instances every X. So it's basically, it's a glorified cron job that executes a specific document over and over and over and over at a specific rate. So if you want to, you know, apply configuration, run the same script on an instance every day, every hour, every, you know, I think the smallest iteration is 30 minutes or 15 minutes, I don't know. You can do that. So pretty neat. So State Manager is a great way to keep your state, but mind you, State Manager doesn't, you know, take care of idempotency. You have to do that yourself. So you have to make sure that if you run a command again, it will not just repeat itself. It will just make sure that you do it something. Like if you run a command to create a directory, it will create a directory every time you run it. But okay, let's move on now. So I showed you how you create a directory on my EC2 instance, right? So this is this EC2 instance I have here. The problem with this EC2 instance is I cannot verify that that directory exists there, right? So the reason why I can't identify that is I have no key pair set to it. So I have no way to log into this instance through SSH because I don't have a password. How can we go above that? So again, another feature in the instances and nodes portion of Systems Manager is Session Manager. And it basically is what it says on the tin. It's a session manager. It allows you to activate or achieve sessions, SSH maybe, no? Through various EC2 instances. But before I do that, I just want to launch a new instance. Just so I want to show this that it actually works with Windows as well, because some people were mentioning that it doesn't work with Windows out of the box. So I want to just launch an EC2 instance with Windows like that. So many VPCs. I'm applying an EC2 role, right? This role has permissions to interact with Systems Manager. Tags, I'll just add a tag called name, Windows SSM. Tag your stuff. Let's do env dev and the role super server. Wait, there you go. I have it already. So I will do that. I will select an existing security group. And look here, I'm gonna not choose a key pair. So no key pairs. This is a basic AMI, nothing, no user data, nothing here, no key pair, launch instances. Awesome. So while that is cooking, let's start a session to my Linux box. So you click start session, you show this here, click start session, and wabam, you have your Linux here running. Well, I want to do bash. Fun fact, a company I used to work for, if you would run bash on a system, your manager gets an email due to a security violation, I guess. So this is an EC2 instance. Let's go to TMP, right? Is there something here? Oh, there's a directory, there's Darko and Darko. So my run command was successfully executed. That's cool. So I didn't even have to have SSH installed locally to do this, right? So I did this directly through the web browser, and it's pretty cool, right? So super simple. You're logged in as the SSM user. Again, you can, sudo yum and do all of those things as sudo. That's fine. So this is pretty cool. And all of the things you do here are being actually logged. So you know that if somebody has access to your instance like this through Session Manager, every command they type will be logged to an S3 bucket if you set it up that way. But there's one more way we can do it. Browsers is great, but I like me some terminal, right? I like me some iTerm. So if I do this and I do something else. So let me just get my instance ID. So where is my instance ID? I've managed instances, right? Yeah, like that. I'll just copy this. So if I go here, AWS SSM start session, right? You can see here that I have it here. Actually, let me just use this entire document, because this is the one, but not this one. No, the other one. Remove that. You know what? Just B like that, and then D. No, AWS SSM start session target, and then paste the instance ID. So right now I'm gonna start the session or start my session manager SSH through my terminal. Wow, there you go, the same thing. So instead of using the big old browser, you can do the same thing. Now, this is not SSH, right? It's going through port 443. So it's actually emulating a shell access or console access through the AWS CLI. There's a plugin you need to install along with the CLI that allows you to do this. But in essence, if you and I know a lot of companies that prevent SSH access from within, this would be a great way to access these instances remotely. And also, if your instances don't have internet, it's also possible to access them like this. So if they're in an isolated subnet with like in an isolated VPC, but with VPC endpoints set up for Systems Manager, you can access them directly through the session manager without them even having to have VPC access. But let's have another look. So did my EC2 instance, my Windows machine show up here yet? Oh, it is. It has. Let's have a look here. Yeah, I know. Testing. Run command with PuTTY. Yeah, this would work. This works out of the box as long as you have the permissions to do so. Graham, no, it doesn't prevent logging to S3. It still pushes up those things to S3 because they're all packaged up through the CLI to your S3 bucket. But let's do something else. So AWS SSM start session target. Let's change an instance in this case. And look there, I'm in a partial remote session. Wow, DIR, right? There we go. Imagine that. God, that's a lot of files. So I am in a Windows server right now, connected through a remote session. This is really cool. So this is a great thing you can do here. One thing I want to show, but I need to do something before. I need to create a user for me because again, the same Windows system here is. I have no password for it, right? There's an administrator user here without any password that I know, so I'm gonna create a new user for myself. New local user. Was the plugin you need to start the session in the terminal? Yes. What is the plugin? So the plugin is Session Manager. Oh, let me show you. There's a CLI plugin, basically, yeah, that you can find here. It's a simple binary for Windows and Mac OS, right? You can just curl it here. You can just take this thing from here. So yeah, there you go. Thank you, Graham. Yeah, thank you for the paste. Let me just create a new local user. Name Darko. The worst thing about a Windows command net user is that you have to paste the password in clear text, which is horrible. Awesome. So add local. I just want to add this local group, the member to the administrators, right? Administrators. A member is myself, Darko. Cool. So I'm going to be using this in a minute, but I just added the user Darko so I can access this instance with a different user, with a password actually. So you've seen Windows. PowerShell remoting is great. I used to do Windows way back when, and I used to enable PowerShell remoting, WMI. That's all great, but it was a pain to get it through some firewalls. Didn't work on all systems. So this is a great way to kind of enable you to just do it through a shell. Amazing, right? So let me exit this again. One more thing we can do. For example, this server you've seen me use here. This is the Linux one, yeah. So curl localhost. So I have Apache running on it, right? So there's an Apache server running on it. That's great. And let's say, for the sake of argument, that this Apache server list is only to localhost. So in a traditional system, what would you do? You would run port forwarding, right? So you would forward these ports through SSH to your local machine and you will access them locally. Or you will have a Bastion host locally in the same network that has access to this web server. So we can use Systems Manager for port forwarding, which is amazing, which was a feature I was looking for so much. So there is a command, again, AWS SSM start session, and this is the port forwarding command. So it uses, again, a document that does port forwarding. So this would be the entire command. So I'm port forwarding local port 80 to my local port 32.32.3. So if I do this, and I go to my browser and do localhost, lolcat, localhost 32.32.3, right? I am connected to my Apache server on my remote server. So if you see here, there's a connection accepted from my desktop here. If I refresh it here, that's all. So I am connected directly through port 443 technically to this instance through a tunnel or a port forwarding session with Systems Manager. Really great. One more thing I want to show off here as well, and that's the whole reason I've created my user before, is I want to go to here and I want to get my Windows instance ID. So AWS SSM start session, target, again, this instance, and document name AWS. Oh, AWS start port forwarding session, and do some parameters, right? So why would you port forward on Windows? The $1 million question. Which port do you port forward on Windows most of the time? Torrents, yeah. Yeah. But no. Port 80, yeah, you can do that, but there's a better thing. So 1 second, let me just do this. I'm leaving it for the big finale, right? So the thing you would port forward to is 3389. What is 3389? Remote desktop. Yeah. So I'm port forwarding this, hopefully, and this allows me to, in essence, connect to localhost. Localhost 3232 no 3232 okay, like that, and Darko, right? Like that. Did I correct the password? Hunter 2, yep. God, that's the password, right? Like in the hacker movie. So I port forwarded port 3389. So I've basically set up a tunnel for remote desktop to my Windows machine, which in essence doesn't even have to have internet, does not have to have a public IP address, nothing, right? So it uses the CLI to do all of this. So the security group on it doesn't have to have port 443 enabled, nothing. So this is how you would do this. I think this is a great way to kind of avoid all of those Bastion hosts, because the Bastion host is the thing that can cause a lot of trouble for you. So this is something that, yeah, we would like to avoid in the future. So that's very cool. I like this. I like this feature a lot. Okay, one more thing. Let me just have a look here. I want to make sure that once I do my next thing, it's not there. Okay, cool, excellent. So I want to do another quick demo of something. Before continuing, I want to show you another feature of Systems Manager, and that's called Distributor. What does Distributor do? It distributes things, but what does it distribute? So Distributor is a package distributor for your EC2 instances or for Systems Manager. So it has the ability to deploy some specific built-in packages here, like a CloudWatch agent. So if you've seen my stream on Tuesday, I've manually installed CloudWatch agent through the CLI. But you can just pick this thing, install on a schedule or install on a time, and install it directly to any of your EC2 instances that are managed by Systems Manager. So there there are these kind of packages installed here. They are available, you know, support EC2 rescue. If you lose access to your EC2 instance, support will ask you to run this, install this package that can potentially help you restore or regain access to your EC2 instances. So all of these things are great. So I can do, you know, CloudWatch agent, select here and, you know, install one time. Basically, it's our good old friend run command. It will run basically this package, install CloudWatch agent to a specific EC2 instance, right? So let me do this one. I don't want to store anything in a box or anything in S3. Click run, and that's it. So it will basically now, it will distribute this package. It will install this package to an EC2 instance, which is pretty cool. It's successful. So CloudWatch agent is now available and running. Well, I'm not sure if it's running. We need to check. We would need to check that on my EC2 instance. But the number of packages we have here, it's great. It's what is it? 7 packages. Most of these are useful, right? So most of them you would use. But the benefit of this is having the ability to create your own packages. So let's say I want to deploy a specific package to all of my Windows instances. So I want to deploy the ultimate thing called 7-zip. So 7-zip is a great example because it's super simple to use. It has a really nice MSI file, and it should work. So you just get the MSI, the Microsoft installer file. I want to choose a bucket here, so I want to use, there's a Darko bucket. Yeah, there's a Darko bucket here, and I want to use stream packages. So it will basically store the binary or the installer on this bucket, and it will use it. So click add software. I just pick my, I actually downloaded this before the stream. There's an MSI file here for 7-zip. It detects basically it's a 7-zip platform. I need to select that this is for Windows. There's also some scripts you can set up, like the installation script, the update script, the uninstall script as well. So it does a lot of those things for you, but you can kind of modify those things as you go along. And you click create package, and hopefully upload is complete. So the package has been created. So if I go back to distributor, like so, select 7-zip now, click here, and install one time. Again, run command, specify my EC2 instance, and it has to be Windows because it wouldn't work on Linux. Again, disable all of these things here. Yeah, SCCM, there you go. I used to do it at SCCM as well. Create packages and deploy packages. Yeah. You know, a lot of people create immutable infrastructures where you kind of configure the instance, the stuff as you go along, as you bring it up, and then tear it down once you don't need it, which is fair. But there's still a lot of workloads that require to be up all the time. So especially when it comes to Windows workloads, you know, think domain controllers, think things like that. So distributing software like this would be a better approach for those things at scale. We can see that it has been successful, but let's check. So let me go back to this thing. Let me re-enable my tunnel session and remote desktop. Oh, it's here. Okay, cool. Like that. Darko. Super secret password. Password 1, 2, 3, I guess. Continue. And now let's see if we have successfully installed our package. Oh. We have 7-zip installed. There you go. So it took only that one. Again, with the power of run command, this was all possible. And I told you run command is this, you know, glue that kind of fits all things together. So yeah, those are kind of a couple of the features of Systems Manager that I wanted to show here, right? There's a lot more things I can be talking about. Whiskey on the rocks? No, it's gin and tonic. So gin and tonic with some rosemary and lemon peel. Yeah, I know, it's almost Friday for me, so there you go. It's 6 p.m., so what you gonna do? Well, it's 7 p.m. already. So, yeah, going further, one of the things I can have a look here is, well, I think I'm gonna leave a lot of these things for one of the upcoming like volume 2 SSM episodes, because there's so many things we can have a look at here. So one of the next streams, I'm gonna basically pick a few more features here and go over a basic look over all of them. But what I plan to do is I want to make a smaller YouTube series where I'm gonna be diving into each of these elements here the basics of each of these elements, like short 10-minute videos. So I'm working on that on my YouTube channel, so stay tuned for that as well. So yeah, so this was a quick look at the AWS Systems Manager features it has. We kind of look at some of the, in my opinion, coolest features. So parameter store, you can store your parameters, invoke them directly from CloudFormation templates. We had a look at run command / state manager, the biggest thing, right? That does a lot of different things within Systems Manager. We had a look at the awesome session manager, which gives you the ability to connect SSH, RDP, or PowerShell remote into your EC2 instance through the magic of the AWS CLI or a browser. And also at the end, we had a look at the distributor where we can package software and distribute it to our EC2 instances. So yeah, again, Systems Manager has a much more things, like, we haven't even looked at the App Center or inventory, a lot of those different things, but I'm really coming up to an hour. If you are interested in serverless, my colleague EDJ Geek has a awesome series coming up on Twitch now. So I believe if you're watching this through the AWS, if you're watching this through the AWS channel or the AWS Twitch stream, you can continue this just watching. He will have one of his awesome episodes on serverless. So please stay tuned if you're into all of that. Once again, thank you very much, everybody, for joining. I will be seeing you on Tuesday. I don't even have an idea what I'm going to talk about on Tuesday, so I'll make sure I'll notify Twitter, LinkedIn, and all of the other things as I go. So you can find the upcoming topics there. Thank you very much, Oxley. Yeah, and for any suggestions, feel free to ping me on Twitter or anywhere else if you want me to talk about something. I wish you all a great weekend. I hope the Friday has already started for you. Yeah, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.